At FBI headquarters, a furious effort was being made to record each serial number on the 10,000 $20 bills.
Hello, children! Welcome to another Rollin' Rambles. Today I'm going to tell you a little secret. Well, it's not really a secret, but a lot of people don't seem to know it. So, this protest stuff against Visa and MasterCard trying to censor games has been going on for about a week or so. And the Visa operators are getting fed up and yelling at people and suggesting that they must have been trying to make illegal purchases before hanging up on them. These call center employees are getting really, really angry and hanging up and so on. People assume that this means that they are making progress. Granted, they might be, because now legitimate Visa customers are not able to get through to the Visa hotlines and get the kind of help that they need, which in turn makes Visa's customer service garbage. But here's the secret that a lot of companies don't want you to know. This transcends this issue. This transcends Visa, MasterCard, any large enough company that you might work with, you might feel powerless against. But any large enough company is also inevitably a publicly traded company, which means they are on the stock market. The secret is, if you really want to put pressure on a company, you don't call up their customer service and give the poor customer service agents being paid barely above minimum wage a bunch of crap. Instead, what you do is you lean on investor relations. Because Visa, to be completely frank, doesn't care what you, some random individual, thinks. But Visa's investor relations cares a great deal what the investors think. And the problem that a whole lot of people have is that with any given large company, it feels like all you can do is either not talk to anyone, in the case of, say, Google, or you talk to these little peons that are at the very bottom of the food chain that can't do jack to help you. Their poor performance reports might make it up the chain through their managers, and the higher-ups might realize that they need to do something. Do you think for one second that Collective Shout got Visa and MasterCard to get Steam and itch.io to purge thousands upon thousands of video games by calling up customer service and going, "Hey, why are you not letting me buy stuff with my Visa card?" No. What they did, and what they publicly said they did, was email the CEO. But I am here to tell you, if you email the CEO, it doesn't go to the CEO. It goes to people that are under the CEO that just sort of filter it. They look at it and they'll probably just throw your email in the trash if it's not something that merits the CEO's attention. They pay numerous gatekeepers to make sure that the probably thousands of emails that the CEO account gets every day is out of those, only the best stuff, the stuff that needs the most attention, rises to the top. And so it is that you need to contact investor relations. The reason for this is, if you contact the CEO and you get the gatekeepers may not care, especially if it's just a bunch of, it's just some internet campaign, it's a bunch of mad people, it'll be over soon. If you contact investor relations, all the people whose contacts are available at investor relations, what happens is these are not the CEO. These are usually people below the CEO, but that are still high up in the food chain. These are not your top-end guys. These are not the people in the boardroom, but they are the people that are one tier down. Often, you'll be dealing with VPs of marketing, VPs of sales, a lot of vice president positions. Vice president in corporate speak is really just, we are people who work underneath the executives to help filter things out and figure out what executives actually need to do, and to take care of all the grunt work that the executives don't want to do themselves or can't do themselves because, let's face it, Visa is a multinational global conglomerate company with literally probably over 1 billion customers, or at least 1 billion cards, and they can't just, the CEO can't respond to every single thing that comes their way. But if you send an email to the CEO, you usually get some sort of assistant or team of assistants that filter stuff meant only for the CEO. If you reach out to all these VPs, all of these middle managers, if you will, that handle investor relations, these people are not the CEO. They have much more of a vested interest in getting this stuff taken care of, because if you're reaching out to investor relations, it is implicit in doing so, and you have to frame your stuff correctly for this, but it is implicit in doing so that this somehow affects the stock price, that somehow you're going to, what you're raising as a concern related to investing in the company. So if you go to the webpage for any given large company like Visa, and you look for investor relations somewhere, it might be in About Us, it might be in some sort of corporate blah, blah, blah page, but if you dig up the investor relations page and find the contacts for investor relations people, and you contact those people specifically with questions about how, or concerns rather, about how it's going to affect the share price, you can just say, I'm an investor, and I have Visa stock. If you actually have it, you don't necessarily have to have it, but it helps if you do. I'm a shareholder, or I would like to invest in Visa, but I have great concerns about doing so because of this issue. And I see that you are handling it in a way that I fear will negatively impact the stock price, blah, 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 blah. This doesn't just work for Visa. I have gotten amazing results simply by by contacting investor relations and just giving them what for. If you give a loud enough complaint and you say, I'm going to make a bunch of noise even, you don't have to even say, I'm a shareholder. You can say, I'm going to blast you far and wide. In the case of this Visa situation, you can say you're getting blasted far and wide, and it's already affected their stock price. There's been a big drop, and then today I even saw another smaller drop. So Visa's stock price is going down in light of this situation. Make no mistake, there is an effect that is being had. But what you really need is to tell investor relations that there's a problem. Because while investor relations might think, oh, we'll just weather this storm, it's transitory. It's just brief. It's not going to be a huge deal. We can get through this. Well, you need to make it clear that they can't get through this. You need to make it clear to them that this is not something that's just going to go away, and that investors will not want to invest in Visa and will start pulling their money if they get wind of this. That's why you don't contact the CEO and you don't call the call center. You always go for investor relations, because the people putting money into the company via the stock market, that's how they get the bulk of the money that they're going to use to invest in the company. That's how it is literally investment in the company. And you are saying, when you contact them, I am either not going to invest in the company, or I'm going to pull my shares and lower your stock price and thus lower the value of your company if you do not do what I want. Because at the end of the day, what do these large companies care about? They care about money, and the only thing they care about is money. And you wonder, how can I do anything as an individual? How can I do anything against a humongous company in which I'm a customer and nothing I say matters? The answer is investor relations. The answer is you tell them directly, I will go out of my way to make sure that people don't like your company. I will go out of my way to harm your company publicly so that your stock price goes down. If you're a shareholder, I will go out of my way publicly to remove my stock and tell everybody why I sold off my Visa stock, and make sure that the reasoning is broadcast as far and as wide as I possibly can get it to go. Because these people, they're not customer service people in a call center. They don't usually get people emailing them angrily going, I'm going to do everything I can to scream at your company and make them look bad. And especially if you can frame it as a business case where it's like, I'm going to pull my shares and the value is going to go down. If you're going to pull your shares, that is sort of a sign to the investor relations team that other people may have the same thought and just aren't saying it. In fact, a lot of people who do various actions related to investment or, let me put it this way. If you buy a product and the product is supposed to be good, and you find that the product is not good or not up to your satisfaction, you have a couple of options. One of those options is to simply never buy the product again. A lot of people, that's what they do. They feel burned by their purchase. They may attempt to return it, and they'll just silently never be your customer again. The vast majority of people who have a problem with your company, when they do so, they don't say anything, which means you can spend a lot of time being silently harmed by something and not know exactly what's going on. Stuff like people complaining on the internet does not hit some VP of marketing's radar because the VP of marketing doesn't care what some idiot on Twitter thinks. Whenever you're trying to make this business case to them, the thing is, when you show up and you say to these people that aren't usually fielding customer complaints that you're going to pull your shares or you wanted to invest but you're not going to, they think that your opinion is 100 or even 1,000 times more powerful than it actually is. Because while you might represent a drop in the bucket, very few of those drops in that bucket ever contact investor relations. Investor relations is the weak point. If you want to get your point across, if you want to boycott, what you do is you don't say, I'm boycotting on Twitter. No one gives a rat's ass what some dumbass on Twitter says, or X, or whatever you want to call it. No one cares about some guy screaming into the giant void, into the internet toilet of whiny people that is known as Twitter, or any other social media. Take your pick. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, it doesn't matter. Pick your social media. Your opinion's irrelevant. But when you say, I am a person that has a bundle of money and I would like to give that money to you, or I already have given that money to you, and I will either pull that money or not give that money in the first place because of this concern, that speaks volumes. And because so many people do not say anything when they have concerns, it speaks thousands of times. You can literally amplify your voice just by contacting the right people and using the right language. It's very important that you do not just scream at them. You cannot scream into the void of investor relations. That will have a negative effect. They will just go, oh, there's a bunch of morons sending us email. Well, we don't care. But if you contact investor relations and you use polite but professional, well-worded, clear, you basically have to understand to some degree how to speak like a business person. You have to understand how to speak in terms that are more business-like and less personal. I'm concerned because this situation could lead to a long-term hit in your revenue. Therefore, I'm pulling my funds. You can't just be like, I'm mad because I can't buy my naked people games. That's just not going to work. They don't give a rat's ass about you and your desire to jack your dinghy. Okay? They don't care. What they care about is that there's potentially, between Steam and Itch, I imagine that there's, let's be very conservative and say at least 1 million customers a month, at least 1 million transactions a month between Steam and Itch that go through Visa or MasterCard's networks, okay? That's a conservative estimate. I'm pretty sure it's more than that. So if you have that many people putting through that many transactions, even if they're $5 games, let's just assume the average is $5, but that's $5 million, okay? Now, it's one thing if you go, wah, I'm a gamer that wants to see pixelated nipples, and I'm not getting to see pixelated nipples, and I'm angry with you because of the fact that I can't pay money to see pixelated nipples. That is one thing. It's another thing when you show up and say, you've banned an entire category of items that your customers want to purchase and thus would like to give you money for. And if you do this, I'm concerned that if it is prolonged, and especially if it has even further reaching effects, that these companies will pull your processing entirely, which will result in $5 million of loss per month, which multiplied by 12 is $60 million a year in lost revenue. And that's a very conservative estimate. I'm sure between Steam and Itch that the money is orders of magnitude more than that. But we're just rolling with $60 million. If you threaten a company with $60 million of loss, not your paltry little amount, but $60 million, that's a big deal. That's a big deal to any company. And I don't care if Visa is a multi-billion-dollar international conglomerate. Out of $1 billion, do you know how much 60 million is? Do a little math and you'll find out it's 6%. Now, I don't know their numbers. I have not done the research. So I can't, these are all just me dicking around with numbers, but I'm pretty sure that everything's a conservative estimate. Maybe they make 10 billion in annual revenue. Maybe they make 100 billion. I don't know. But even if it was 10 billion and you're going to knock 60 million, that's still 0.6%. If you make a pie chart on a computer, that's still a pretty big sliver. It may not look huge, but you are talking about taking a big chunk out of their market. $60 million buys a whole lot of perks for a CEO. So think about this. Contact investor relations instead of call centers, but you have to do it right. That's the way that you get your way with corporate. Now, I don't want to just bring this to you and be like, herder, look at me, I'm a freaking expert, hoppity-doppity-dop, okay, go do it. I want you to know that it's worked. It's been a long time since I've had to do it, but there was a company, I can't remember which company, that I had a problem with. I had an account with FanBridge. FanBridge was bought out by some other company. This other company took my $10 a month FanBridge account that I actually had just let slide. Like I was paying for it and not even using it for 2 years, which that's my fault. That's my money lost. And, whatever. That's my mistake. I left an account dormant that was leaching out of my bank account for years. Oopsie doodle, my bad. I thought I was going to use it again. I never did. The other company bought them out. And all of a sudden, instead of seeing the 7 or 9 or whatever, or 10, $9.95, I think, a month come out of my bank account, suddenly I saw $60 come out of my bank account. Now, if you take $10 from me, that's like, in beer terms, that's like 3 or 4 40s. In wine terms, that's a nice low-cost bottle of wine. In meal terms, that's like 2 trips to McDonald's or enough stuff for me to make meals for 2 days if I go to the grocery store and get cheap stuff. But the point is, we're not talking about $10 now. We're talking about $60. So when your expense goes from, I lost, 3 beers a month to, I lost 18 beers a month. All of a sudden, your beer budget's thinner and you can't get beer so that you can smash your brain so that you can feel like a sad, depressed loser, which you are if you drink too much, as I have in the past. You get the idea. Suddenly, $60 comes out of my account and I'm very angry and upset because I was never told explicitly. I was just told that the company was acquired and blah, 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 blah in some email. But at no point did they say, your $10 plan, we're going to make that $60 now. Yeah. So I wrote to them and I was like, no, close my account and refund me all the money. And they were like, I'm sorry, we can't do that. So then I bombed investor relations. I mean, I sent emails all over the friggin' place to investor relations, any email address I could get for the company, but mainly the investor relations people. And I was like, I had an account with FanBridge. I didn't use it for 2 years. You bought the company. You upped the price. I was never given a notice of this up in the price, and I wasn't using it for the 2 years prior. If you look at my account history, you can see that. I have a major problem with the fact that you're suddenly charging me $60 a month for something that I was okay with not using for $10 a month. And you won't give me my money back. If you do not give me my money back, I am going to make sure that I dedicate my life until I get my money back to blasting your company publicly on every social media that I can access, on every website I can get my hands on. In forums, I will become your worst enemy, your biggest pain in the ass, if you do not give me back my money and close my account. There is no reason for you not to do this. And you know what? The next email I got was, we understand, we gave you a refund, and we closed your account. I had another company, it's been so long I don't remember which one it was, but they wouldn't leave me alone or wouldn't give me a refund or whatever. I couldn't get my way with them, so I leaned on investor relations really angrily, and they emailed me and said, we don't normally do this, but, for blah, 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 whatever reasons to save face, maybe like, in whatever interest bullshit reason they came up with, we'll give you an exception this time and we'll give you a refund. Well, I don't care that you gave me an exception this time or whatever. The bottom line is I wanted a refund and I got a refund, and I did it by leaning on investor relations because the customer service was useless. You can get your way so easily if you know how to push investor relations instead of the peons at the bottom that get paid minimum wage to listen to you scream at them, and then they can't do anything about it. Anyway, that is my advice for the day, and I'm glad that you stuck with me this long, and I hope that you appreciated my stories. YouTube's been screwing with everybody lately. They changed their metrics, so if you would please like, dislike, comment, subscribe, whatever. Interactions matter, watch time no longer matters. So if you liked this video and you made it this far, please do some engagement stuff just to let YouTube know, hey, I actually like this stuff, and I'm not just listening on mobile and walking away. Because YouTube sucks, and they've decided that it doesn't matter that you listened, only that you poked your stupid screen. I appreciate it, and I'm sorry I even have to ask. Have a wonderful day. Well, here it's kind of turning into night. And take care. Thank you.